I'm Dean. I'm the dad.
I'm Laura. I'm the mom.
And I'm Krysta. I'm the daughter.
And together we are Family Plot. Well, that worked out okay. How is everyone today?
Doing okay, I guess.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, we have a great show lined up. But before we get to that, let's get some intro stuff out of the way. First of all, welcome listeners, both new and old. If you want to help out the show, a couple of ways you can do that. You can, of course, donate through Patreon. It's a monthly kind of thing. $1, $3, $5, $10, I believe, are the denominations we've set. Nothing too expensive. And if you can't do a monthly donation, you can always do a one-time donation through Buy Me a Coffee. Or if you can't afford that, you can always, just share the show on social media. And now, that being said, if you listen to the show and you don't like it, we ask you to keep that to yourself.
And here's something new I'd like to add. If you're a lazy person like me and don't want to share anything, just listen, because it always helps when you're around.
Yes, it does. So, what are we talking about today? In the 1970s, Dwight York, a convicted sex offender who had been caught with a 13-year-old girl, was released from prison and began to sell literature, incense, and other things, and slowly building a cult of black people that he brought together that would come to be known as the Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, among other things. Tonight we examine Dwight, his cult, and how they came about on the historical true crime edition of Family Plot.
Okay, but I would just like to throw in that I'm getting a little concerned that we keep going to these freaky sex offenders.
Exactly, me too. I'm like,
We maybe need to
back it up on
get
that.
away from those a little bit, because I
Back
feel
it
like
up.
about the last month and a half, we've had a few.
Back away from the offenders, please.
John Edward Robinson. He's the only one I remember. Well, I guess Gilles de Rais.
Yeah, Gilles de Rais was pretty bad.
But that's okay.
If you say
Krista's 13. We can handle some stronger topics now.
Just because the age 13 means you can handle stronger topics doesn't mean you're child.
Okay, well, I kind of feel like you were buying part of this because he keeps hearing you drop the F word, and that kind of makes us think that you've decided that you're more grown up than we feel you are. So maybe if you watch your mouth, maybe he'll back off on the adult topics.
I have no issues with the adult topics. I was just bringing up a topic on my... I'm trying to speak on my show!
Well, okay, that's fair, I suppose. Wow, we've derailed.
Yeah, pretty much. We introduced the topic, and the first thing y'all did was say you hate the topic.
I hate the person.
No.
I do not hate the topic.
I did not say I hate the topic. What I said was, I just felt like we were doing a lot of the freaky deaky with some freaky deaky pervos. That's all I'm saying. Now, I ain't got no problem with anybody in general, but we're trying to stay family friendly, so I just thought I would throw out that maybe Mom's getting a little concerned. But we can revisit. We'll put a pin in it. That's all right. Go on with your bad self. We good.
I was actually excited for this episode because it is our first cult. Like, we haven't done any cults. And I like cults because cults satisfy history and true crime. And in a little bit, depending on the cult, folklore, because, there's what it believes. But the cult we're doing today is big and wonderful and weird.
Big, wonderful. Okay, cult and wonderful, I don't believe ever go together.
No.
I thought we did the freaky dude with the islands, and did we do him, or the Kool-Aid dude? I thought we did the Kool-Aid dude. Did we not?
We never did Jim Jones.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
When have we ever done, oh yeah, man? Come on.
Not that Kool-Aid. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Crystal,
I was messing with you.
And technically, he didn't give his followers Kool-Aid, he gave them Flavor Aid.
Flavor Aid, yes, of course.
Although it is where we get the phrase drunk the Kool-Aid. Like someone has drunk the Kool-Aid.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Yes.
Or yeah.
Oh, drink Kool-Aid? What? Okay, never mind. Let's move on.
So yeah, and this is going to get us. I mean, this will be the first cult we do. We will do others, but yeah. All right. So, but before we get too much into this, of course, our Krysta, as always, has some weird facts.
Hello. Welcome back to the Fact Corner, everyone.
There's facts in the corner.
There is
I don't know if that's what you said.
Krysta's in the corner. Krysta is.
Of course I am. Why would...
Okay.
Did you just tap my foot?
Maybe. You're on my computer desk thing here. So, yes, I might have tapped your foot.
Oh.
How dare I?
Yes. How dare thou?
How dare I tap your sweet little Krysta foot? So what are your weird facts, Krysta?
Okay. Sit. Everyone sit down.
I'm sitting.
Talking to the viewer or the listeners.
Oh.
Sit. These are about to be some good facts.
Yay, good facts.
Today's facts are from thoughtco.com.
Well, we've hit up ThoughtCo before.
We have.
Yep.
And this one is by Bob Strauss.
Congratulations, Bob, if you're listening.
Thank you, Bob Strauss.
Today's facts are about, drum roll please, velociraptors.
Woo!
Now, is it just me, or do you think velociraptor is spelled kind of funky?
I've always thought they were spelled a little funky because it's like raptor, which is I thought for years was just another word for bird, and then like velocity, like fast bird. But they're not birds, it turns out. And I don't know how fast they really were, like cheetah fast or what.
We don't know. Fact number 1. Start off with this one, shall we? Those aren't really velociraptors in Jurassic Park movies.
No?
It's a sad fact that the velociraptors claim to be pop culture and fame in Jurassic Park is based on a lie. The special effects wizards have long since confessed that they modeled their velociraptor after the much bigger and much more dangerous looking raptor. It's called the Deinonychus?
Yeah.
Deinonychus enteropus.
Or most people just refer to it as a Utah raptor, but yeah, that's its official Latin designation.
I will keep that in my brain. Thank you. I said it. I said it right. Wow.
Yes, you did. I was
So proud.
very proud of my Krysta.
Such long names, but whose name isn't quite as catchy or easy to pronounce, and lived about 30 million years before its more famous relative. Jurassic World had the chance to set a record straight, but it stuck with the big velociraptor fib. If life were fair, Deinonychus
Yes.
Deinonychus would be a much better known dinosaur than the velociraptor. But that's just the way the Jurassic Amber crumbles.
Wow!
He is
Apollo, my goodness! Somebody got up on the wrong side of the bed.
Would you like to be sprayed with water, sir?
Well, Dad keeps messing with him, and he doesn't like it, and he's letting me know.
At least he's not hissing and hitting at us. Let's talk about the dog, sorry.
Oh.
Velociraptors had feathers, not scaly, reptilian skin. Extrapolating, yeah. Extrapolating from the smaller, more primitive feathered raptors that predated it by millions of years, paleontologists believe velociraptors sported feathers too. Due to having quill knobs, just like today's birds, that on their bones where the feathers would have attached, artists have depicted this dinosaur as possessing everything from pale, colorless chicken-like cuts to green plumage worthy of a South American parrot. Whatever the case, Velociraptor almost certainly wasn't lizard skin, as it's portrayed in the Jurassic movies. Assuming velociraptors needed to sneak up on their prey were on safer ground, assuming that they weren't too brightly feathered.
Very cool.
Dad, that is scary. Put it down. Thank you. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, he was just waving around a bright, colorful thing that was on a lanyard. It scared me. And I told him not to. Number 3. For a dinosaur that's often mentioned in the same breath as Tyrannosaurus Rex, Velociraptor was remarkably puny. This meat eater weighed only about 30 pounds soaking wet. About the same size as a good-sized human toddler.
Or a wild turkey.
That's a funny thing to say. Because it was just 2 feet tall and 6 feet long. In fact, it would take 6 or 7 adult velociraptors to make one average size Deinonychus, or Utah raptor. 500 to match the full-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex, and 5,000 or so equal to the weight of one good-sized Titanosaur.
Wow.
Who's counting? Certainly not the people who script Hollywood movies.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Interesting.
Fact number 4.
Ooh, fact number 4.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evidence that velociraptors hunted in packs. To date, all of the dozen or so identified velociraptor specimens have been solitary individuals. The idea of velociraptors ganging up on their prey in cooperative pack probably stems from this discovery of associated deinonychus remains in North America. This larger raptor may have been hunted in packs to bring down larger duck-billed dinosaurs, such as Tenontosaurus.
Sounds about right.
But there's no particular reason to extrapolate
Extrapolate, yeah.
those findings to Velociraptor. But then again, there's no particular reason not to. I mean, if you're a smaller dinosaur and you're trying to take down a bigger thing, or like even just any particular meat, wouldn't you go with a pack?
Well, and that's the thing, is they think velociraptors, as well as Utah raptors, were pack hunters. So they would plan out assaults on larger prey and bring them down just with sheer numbers.
Yes, but also, this next fact almost completely contradicts that. Hold on. Before I say anything else to ruin your whole thing, let's do this last fact.
Okay.
Fact number 5. The velociraptor's IQ has been wildly exaggerated. Remember that scene in Jurassic Park where Velociraptor figures out how to turn a doorknob? Pure fantasy. Even the
Putatively, yeah.
Putatively smartest dinosaur of the Mesozoic era, Troodon, was probably dumber than a newborn kitten. And it's a safe bet that no reptiles extinct or extant have ever learned how to use tools, with the possible exception of American alligator. A real-life velociraptor would likely have butted its head against that closed kitchen door until it knocked itself out, and then its hungry pal would have feasted on the remains. So, my question is,
you, who needs enemies?
My question is, if they were all really that stupid, why would they hunt in packs and do the smart thing?
Because animal intelligence isn't like human intelligence. They don't learn how to do that. They're born knowing it. It's instinct. And so hunting intellect and then problem-solving intellect are two different things, really. At least in animals.
Yeah, but still, seeing as they were like, I know it's an instinctual thing, but like, it still doesn't seem right to me. I don't know.
So is that all your facts on velociraptors?
Yep.
See, I don't think you...
Was that bad?
No. Sorry. Had pizza before we started, and it's kind of repeating on me. It's kind of coming back up. But the point is that,
Someone's not eating.
I think that you're like hunting is just born in the bones of predators, and velociraptors.
Like a lion, you wouldn't. They're not like.
But a lion also is not going to figure out how to open a door.
Exactly.
I mean, even the tiger that got Vladimir Markov that we talked about, it waited outside the house for him. It's not like it went in and hid behind a dresser or something, and when the guy came in, it was like, oh my God, a tiger! And then the tiger was like, rawr! It waited outside and got him like it would any animal, you know. And I think velociraptors are much the same. They would have hunted like any animal. They were pack animals. We're almost certain of that. But that's not a thing about smarts. It's like wolves and coyotes. They hunt together in packs. It's just their instinct.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, that does sound about right, but I don't know.
But yeah, it doesn't make them smart necessarily. So,
depending on what you call smart, it really just.
So, let's start with Dwight York. Now, Dwight's the guy that founds the Nuwaubian Nation of Moors.
Yeah, the one who liked little 13-year-old girls.
Ew.
Now, according to a birth certificate issued in the United States, Dwight was born in Boston, Massachusetts. However, other sources give his birthplace alternatively as New Jersey, New York, Baltimore, or, and my particular favorite, Takoradi, Ghana.
Takoradi. Right.
Takoradi, which is the name of a city in Ghana. Gha. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, York says he was raised in Massachusetts and at the age of 7 went to Aswan, Egypt to learn about Islam.
Why is that the name?
What?
Why is that the name?
Why is what the name?
It just is.
Okay.
We didn't name Egyptian cities. We don't know.
I just wanted to know why they named it that.
Aswan, Egypt? I don't know. Aswan. Probably means something in Egyptian.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Now, what he said about this was, my grandfather, As-Sayyid Abdur Rahman Al-Mahdi, the Imam of the Ansars in the Sudan until 1959, upon looking in my eyes, foretold that I was the one who would possess the light. He says he returned to the United States in 1957 at age 12 and continued to study Islam. As an adolescent, he moved with his family to Teaneck, New Jersey in the late 1960s. York, calling himself Imam Isa, combined elements of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Nation of Islam, the Nation of Gods and Earths, and Freemasonry, and founded a quasi-Muslim black nationalist movement in community. He called it Ansar Pure Sufi, or the Ansaru Allah community, and he started that around 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something that he would have a problem with, is naming his creation. It would go through a lot of names.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he instructed members to wear black and green daishikis. A daishiki is a colorful shirt with a wide neck and bright colors and designs, common in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
He later changed his name to Imam Isa Abdullah and renamed his Ansar Pure Sufi ministry to the Nubians in Brooklyn in 1967. The group was considered to be part of the Black Hebrews phenomenon under the name Nuwaubian Islamic Hebrews and Nubian Hebrew Mission as of 1969. Like I said, he doesn't know what to name his creation.
Right.
We're lucky he didn't make Frankenstein's monster, or that poor thing would have had dozens of names, I feel like. Also, it's odd that he chose Abdullah. Ab usually means like slave of. So it'd be like the slave Abdullah, which is an odd name to pick for an imam, which is like a really highfalutin kind of clerical individual.
Mm-hmm.
So, unlike other groups, they were not Judeo-Christian, but Judeo-Islamic. This was also the period of black power among African Americans, like the Black Panthers were big at this time.
Right.
You know, and other similar groups. After York returned from a pilgrimage to Egypt and the Sudan, he invited Sadiq al-Mahdi to the U.S. in 1970, and his group changed its name once again. Now, FBI reports at the time described this group as being a front for a wide range of criminal activity, including arson, welfare fraud, and extortion. Now, at that point, the cult was memorizing history as their imam, Dwight York, saw it, even though he wasn't calling himself Dwight York at this point. It's the name I'm going to keep using. But they were also participating in the compilation of various texts produced by the community. So they were like combining the Quran with elements of the Bible.
Bible. Sorry. Yawn.
Now, they would also record much of this in a recording studio owned by the community. Other than this work, the women's main source of income comes from U.S. government public assistance and monies earned by the men in various enterprises such as food shops, jewelry, merchandise stores, and street vending. Street vending was the biggie. The cult was based in Coney Island for a time and operated a bookstore and a printing press on Flatbush Avenue in the 70s. In the 80s, he was based in Brooklyn on Bushwick Avenue. York's students are best remembered by New Yorkers as practitioners of Orthodox Islam. Members of certain New York 5% Nation of Islam and Arab Islamic mosques still regard the Nuwaubians as a rival faction, but at different times they followed the paths of Christianity and Judaism. Operations relocated to Liberty near the Catskills around 1991, then to Georgia in 1993. Basically, Dwight was spending a lot of time making sure nobody knew too much about his new religion.
Right.
Now, the community in Brooklyn at this point reported as identifying as the Holy Tabernacle of the Most High and also as the Children of Abraham. And at this point, apparently, Dwight was going by the name Rabboni Yeshua Bar El Hadai. And they were still practicing a mixture of Judaism and Islam. They were reported as numbering about 300 persons, and in 1994, the group reportedly still owned 9 apartment buildings, of which 5 were in tax arrears. Now, when he got out of prison, Dwight was married, and I don't know how she didn't leave him, considering what he was in prison for. So when he started this, he started buying up apartment buildings. And meanwhile, he was like doing street printing and selling stuff on the street. He was a very charismatic guy. And in fact, that is what some of the younger female members reacted to, as he had all these male members that were dressed in dashikis or dressed in like almost biblical style clothing. And so these young black people saw black religious icons, black religious figures that they could identify with, which is part of how the cult grew. And it does show that for all his problems, Dwight had a smart streak in him. Now, also around that time, Dwight formed York Records, releasing the music of several successful artists within the genre of R&B, hip-hop, gospel, and others. York himself produced a single called It's Too Late in 1986. In 1988, York Records released He's Coming by gospel legends Doc McKenzie and the Highlights. Also in 1988, he released Kenny and Petite's What Is He to You? Petite went on to become the early 90s group Ex-Girlfriend, featuring Stacey Francis from X Factor and TV One's R&B Divas at Los Angeles. So, yeah. Lots of music was happening late 80s, early 90s that he was a part of. And he continued to buy more and more property. So as they would recruit new people, he would have them stay in one of his apartment buildings. And so that was one of the things that let them recruit people so easily, is because if you were in exigent circumstances, he had a home for you and he would take care of you. Now, wasn't great, but now in 1988, York was convicted of obtaining a passport with a false birth certificate. York left Brooklyn with an estimated 300 followers about 1990. Some settled in upstate New York. He later moved with a number of followers to Georgia. Others joined them from such cities as Baltimore, Philadelphia, Hartford, New York, and Washington, D.C. Now, according to follower Robert Rohan, who later wrote a book about the movement, York moved in order to avoid criminal investigations and other charges in New York, perhaps to avoid scrutiny under the international Muslim community, the Nation of Islam, the Nation of Gods and Earth's legal troubles, and the negative history of his group during the New York period. He changed his own name several times, as well as the group's name, and masked different parts of their doctrine. Now, when they went to Georgia, that's when they changed their name to the United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors. And
that was the one that finally stuck, right?
Well, that's the one that everybody remembers, but it continued to change actually after that. But it's the one that most people sort of go, okay, this is what we're going to call it.
I see.
I don't know if that's because it was the longest or whatever.
Probably.
But at York's direction, the community purchased land and built an Egyptian-themed complex on 476 acres of land near East Eatonton, Georgia. Now, it wasn't completed until 1993, but Dwight had his compound, right? It was the Nuwaubian compound. Unlike the later Koresh compound, it wouldn't end quite so badly, although it would end horrifically enough.
I see.
Now, originally they were going to name it Kadesh, but for some reason, at the last minute, he chose the name Tama,
I see.
which is what they named that place. And it had pyramids and obelisks. It was very Egyptian style, but they weren't Egyptian style pyramids. It was like stucco. It was like they built these wood frames and just paneled it over with stucco or something. It wasn't like, it's clearly not an Egyptian place.
Right.
So in 1999, Time magazine reports on Tama Ray.
Mm-hmm.
In 2005, federal government officials acquired the property of Tama Ray through asset forfeiture because they had arrested and convicted York and sentenced him to prison for 135 years. He owed money for violating financial laws, plus he was caught basically sexual assaulting a lot of his younger members of the cult. So that is Dwight York. Now, he goes on a lot of names, on with another names, and the Nuwaubian Nation is still around, kind of.
Kind of, sort of. I see.
It no longer goes by that name. Its tenets are very different. They've actually gotten themselves some principles, or at least They've tried really hard. I didn't look into the modern version, but yeah. So that's York himself. Now, the cult was really just a reflection of things he learned. Like, he considered the nation basically his tribe. Mm-hmm. And so, like, and he really did not want white culture knowing what they were up to any degree. So, for example, when they went to Georgia in the 90s, he at first sent them in like vans and cars and stuff, and he would give like whoever was driving like $10,000 or $20,000 of the cult's money. And he's like, if you get stopped, if the police find this, tell them that you've inherited it from your Aunt Tammy and you're coming down to buy property and to get away from the city. So, I mean, he really sort of had...
He really had everything thought out, didn't he?
Not well. I mean,
but he had things planned out.
Yes, he did have things planned out. But here's my thought. Let's say the police in Eatonton pull over 3 cars of people, find money on 3 of them, all, 10 or 20,000, and they've all recently inherited this money. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I'd be suspicious.
Right.
Plus, so that they wouldn't get noticed, he had them dress up like he felt like tourists or Southerners dressed. So essentially, he had them wear clothes like they could have been extra dancers at a Garth Brooks concert, right? That sort of style of dress, so that when they'd stop in Eatonton, people would notice them because they're like, why are all these black people dressed up as like a country band or something?
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy.
Now, one of the things the cult did once they got to Tama, which was their big compound in Eatonton, Georgia, mm-hmm. is they opened up one of their buildings as a nightclub, and they would try to get people from town to come and party at this nightclub. Problem is, it was a building they built themselves. The county, it wasn't registered by the county as an industrial building, or, when you build a business, you have to file what kind of business it is. It has to be built to certain standards, right? They had no idea what the fire codes were, So, yeah, they were not happy with this nightclub. But really, it was just a way for the cult to raise money and for them to get members of the local populace to join the cult, or at least to be on the cult's side.
Right.
And to some degree, it does work. However, at this point, there's a lot of child molestation going on. Like York is kind of just
horrific individual.
Yeah. He basically starts a
piece of trash.
Yeah. He basically starts explaining to his followers that since he contains some of the seed of Jesus Christ or something, and I'm not sure how he worked that out.
Yeah. What the fudge?
But that he is able to have sex with anybody he wants.
No.
And so he had girls that he was grooming as young as 13, and then he would have them groom even younger girls for him.
No.
And
kind of
psycho freak. Yeah.
What?
Gotta do that. Okay. Yeah, he really had turned the cult at one point into his own personal harem. And like, People magazine had a series for a while called People Investigate Cults. It's where I first found out about these people. And one of the girls talks about how she was kind of in love with Dwight from afar.
No. They're never in love with him. They're just in love with the idea of him.
Well, she was in love with him because she thought he was a holy man, but she was in love with him like you love a favorite pastor or a favorite. There was not a sexual component to it. It was more like a father or something.
Right.
And so when he started to come on to her, on some level, she didn't like it, but she could not, with how many years she'd spent in the cult, fight against it. She had no doctrine to fight against what he wanted with. So she wound up being molested, which made him quite happy. Now, at this point, the FBI starts to catch some of this.
Gosh, we hope so.
Catch wind of some of this, and they begin to go to some of the local police officers. Problem is, Dwight York has been taking some of the money from this nightclub that he's not supposed to have and using it to pay off the local cops.
Well, obviously. I mean, that's the only way you get to keep something like that running is by, fleecing the local law.
So, let's take a moment for a word from our sponsors, and then we'll come back to sort of the big ending we're building up to. Well, hon, how do you feel?
I feel sponsored.
Excellent. So, at this point, the FBI has figured out something's going on.
Okay.
And so, the FBI, along with a lot of other law enforcement agencies, raids Tama. They go onto the compound. They're looking for anything they can find to arrest people for. And of course, at this point, Dwight York's sexual proclivities are well known, and he's going down for them big time.
Gosh, we hope so. And then some.
But at this point, they're also trying to rescue cult members, many of whom they feel have been brainwashed. As well as find, like, the church is engaging in they think they're possibly engaging in arms stockpiling or, just various other stuff, cheating people out of money. So they're really ready to shut this place down. Now, at the end of the day, they basically seize Tama because they haven't paid taxes on the land in a long time.
Right.
So they seize Tama. They arrest York because they have quite a bit of proof that he is involved with his younger parishioners. And in fact, there is a rumor, don't know how true it is, but there is a rumor that he assaulted parishioners as young as 5.
Oh, God.
Oh,
we
Jesus.
didn't need to know that. Sick monster.
Again, don't know how true it is, but it's certainly, people claim to have seen it. So, Dwight York goes to jail.
Good.
Anything else?
Couldn't happen to a creepier dude.
A few people who believed in the religiousness of the group have kept it going, but have made it more of a typical religion. But by and large, most people left the group because it was really held together by Dwight York. He was a very charismatic guy, like a lot of these cult types are.
Oh, yeah.
But furthermore, on top of that, Dwight goes to jail. Now, when he goes to jail, several members of the Eatonton law enforcement community quit because they're protesting his arrest. They feel like it wasn't fair. These people, these people, these members of law enforcement quit. Remember, he's been paying off a bunch of them.
Care. Wow.
So these people quit. They join the staff at the Cobb County Correctional Facility in Atlanta, or wherever that he's being kept, and they print off a bunch of these Nuwaubian Nation flyers for him to pass out in jail.
Wow.
Until several of them wind up getting arrested as well, because you're not supposed to have that sort of relationship with a prisoner, even if you are a guard. So that's the story of the Nuwaubian Nation. It really was a great idea. At its heart is the idea of giving the black community a religion that was essentially theirs, that they could grow the way they felt. That idea is a great idea.
Sure. But the issue is when you have, it's that old adage of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And he put himself in that place of saying that he was the deity. And that's where it comes down to with these cults, with these ideals, that people place themselves on a pedestal, and then that power turns into corruptness, and that's where the evil seeks in and just starts to just crumble everything around it. So great, you had a great idea, but when you turn that into something that you're using to destroy lives around you more and more, the further you go into that idea has turned into a bad seed at this point, and it has to be taken out.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. I'm a firm believer in believe what you want. I mean, for that matter, the Branch Davidians are still a thing, although they only call themselves the Branch at this point. But I believe what you want when it comes to religion. But yeah, that's the problem. Guys like Dwight York, who basically built this so that he could have a bunch of money and have access to these girls.
Right. And that's just...
And it's horrifying that what he did with this good idea was horrifying. And it just... Like, if they could have found someone with actual principles to found this, might have been a good thing. But they didn't.
Right.
And the other thing was, it to me, I don't get how it grew. Because literally, every couple of years, he would change it.
Yeah.
So if you were with it the first couple of years, by the last couple of years, it was way different than that. And so...
How did you stay?
Yeah, how did... Or did people? See, and that was one thing I couldn't find. Did people stay in the group, or did he just recruit new people?
Well, I guess that's a possibility.
And, there is some speculation that mostly what he focused on was female followers.
Well, I mean, if that's what he turned it into, that he was just going after easy conquests at that point, then that makes sense.
Yeah, it's vaguely horrifying. But
it's beyond vaguely horrifying. But...
Oh, no, his actions are absolutely horrifying. But just looking on the outside, looking in, without knowing anything that happened, it's vaguely horrifying looking. Digging into it, there's something wrong here. And I guess at the end of the day, that's my thing, is that... See, I wanted to do this because I feel like there's people out there that are hurting or that need something. And that something might be religion. And if you need religion, then go for it. I mean, there's no one should get mad at anybody for seeking a connection with the divine, whatever connection that is.
Right.
But guys like Dwight York take that and pervert it. And I think that you need to be aware of that. I don't care how slammed into the earth you are.
Right.
When people are trying to take care of you and then are trying to feed you their version of the Bible or their version of the Talmud or their version of whatever sacred text they're using, and it doesn't make sense, there's probably a reason for that, and you shouldn't be part of it.
Yeah.
So, Krysta?
We have kind of talked this out. Do you have anything to add, my dear, my dear?
Honestly,
Other than,
yeah. But I agree with that. It does seem like a good idea if, just by itself, like the religion part. It's a way for people to get away from things, and I think a hobby is very nice if you always have like things going on at home, or just things going on in life in general.
yeah.
But the things that he did were unacceptable, and I will
for
not,
sure.
and I will not put this past anyone. But like this is really just overall disgusting and
It's disgusting and
it's
heartbreaking.
literally heartbreaking. It's just like you would do that to somebody, but why? Why would you do that? Because we know that those are children, and we know that their minds are not developed to the point where they can say yes or no to anything. So
Absolutely.
it's like,
Wholeheartedly agree.
I appreciate what you did for some people, but you also ruined some people's lives. Thanks for that. Not really, jerk.
Well, yeah, and I guess that for me is the thing. Whatever the Nuwaubian Nation was or could have been,
He destroyed it.
he destroyed it. Yeah, because for him, it wasn't about lifting people up, which is what religion should be about.
Yeah.
Lifting people up in fellowship. It wasn't about that. It was about
Getting his way.
Yeah, it was about him being a confidence man and him being a sexual predator.
Yeah.
That's what it became about. And no group based on that is ever going to survive very long.
For sure.
Exactly. Like, talk about egotistical. This man.
Absolutely. That man needs to go.
Well, he did. He's still in jail in Atlanta. He won't get out until...
Alive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dad said he started this in the 70s.
And, yeah, he was jailed in 2003 for 135 years.
Yeah.
So he's in jail. He's not going anywhere. Not for quite a while.
Is it that time?
It is that time.
Time to thank Paige?
Time to thank everybody. So, okay. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't even get into all the things. He referred to himself as Dr. York quite a bit.
Of course he did, because that's something that someone as egotistical as him would do. I'm trying to find the other word for it, but my brain just doesn't want to think of it right now.
Sleazeball.
No.
No, but that's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one, but it's like...
Scumbag?
That too, but no, not that one.
Slime-sucking amoeba?
That too, but no. That doesn't matter. We're trying to...
Now,
Pustule wart on a
No, there's an
on a
actual word for it.
warthog's slimy backside.
No, it's like similar to the one that I've been saying, like egotistical.
well, now, weirdly, the Nuwaubian Nation does have a legacy that's actually kind of positive.
Well, yeah, again, I'm not putting anything past that and putting stuff past him.
Right, but the church owned its own recording studio for a while.
Yeah, we talked about that, the music, yes.
Right. Well, a lot of the musicians that came out of there either wound up working with more legitimate musicians or forming their own bands. And so York Records actually has a little bit of cred in the hip-hop genre and some of these other genres for, like, giving these artists their start. But to me, you have to separate that from everything else. Like, because he wasn't trying to give artists a start there.
No, of course not. No, that was just a way for him to make money.
Right. It was a way for him to make money and a way for him to use their talent to promote his idea.
Yeah. So he took advantage of them too. So all around, he was a really bad dude.
Yes, he was.
That's the nice way to put it.
Right.
Yeah, we said a bunch of
That's
things
the
before.
mom way to put it.
Yeah.
He was a really bad person. I don't know. Slimy pustule on a warthog's backside seems really relevant.
And it's probably because it is, but at the same time, we should.
Now, one of Dwight's skills was creative etymology.
So he came up with things about bugs?
No. Etymology is the origin of words.
Oh.
And so these are some of the origins that he claimed. The word believe was actually, it is spelled in his mind, B-E-L-I-E-E-V-E. And he says it comes to lie to Eve's children.
Okay.
Caucasian for him meant carcass Asian and was a way of saying degenerated Asian. Like Caucasians aren't their own race. They're degenerated Asians.
Ah, I see.
So how is this
he was making up genealogy and words and all of this fun stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
I didn't say it was good. I was just saying it was one of his skills, was that he would, during sermons, claim, like he said, USA was the Egyptian word USA, which means I. I don't know if that's true, but...
With a man like him, you'll never know if anything's true.
Right. So I want to tell our listeners, thanks for listening. Whether you're a new listener or you're a returning listener, thank you for listening to us. Thanks to Bill Barron for our theme music.
Yes. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
And if you need music for a project, Bill's your guy. Reach out to him at Bill Barrent, and that last name is BEHRENDT at sbcglobal.net. He'll help you out. Also, thanks to Paige Elmore for help with the artwork that she conspired with Krysta to give us. Thank you, Paige. Thank you,
Paige.
Thank you, Krysta. Also want to thank Aaron Gnurk of the Big Dumb Fun Show for promoting us locally. Thank you, Aaron. Join us next week so we can examine Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
And it will be episode 120, so we'll have a check-in with Krysta.
Yes, we will. Episode 120, check-in with Krysta and Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
Bye.
Bye.